All right, here we go. Sportsbit 2.0 live. We're live again today. Betting Insight today, SBRpicks.com, Pauly and Teddy. I'm at Real Sportsbit. He's at Teddy_Covers. Fire away. We tweeted out the link there. So did SBR. Take some questions and comments as well. Congrats to the guy who's got the, well, not congrats yet, but a good sweat with the guy who has the Jazz 200-1 to win the West. Those came in while we were doing the shot clock as well. We'll touch on game one of the Pelicans and Warriors. We'll get to the Bucks and Celtics tonight, game 6, NFL draft props, just the line movement, a little shot clock with the hockey playoffs, round 2 underway tonight. Big show coming up. And here we are. We are live. No show tomorrow as Teddy is traveling, and he will get the lobster roll Monday at Fenway for $28. He can enjoy that trip as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the Bucks. Let's start with the bad beats. Hard. Oh, the Jazz up 25 with 8 minutes left. They couldn't get the money. 29 points the rest of the way. They're up 71-46 with 8:34 left. How about if you had the over 208? It's 107-99 with 1:25 left. No points the rest of the way, Teddy.
So I was debating if we were going to call this a moose. And I decided it is not a moose because all of that 25-point lead was gone by the end of the third quarter. I mean,
That's
Utah
true.
came out of halftime and was just, I mean, they played well for a couple of minutes, but the back half of that third quarter was as ugly as it gets. So we didn't put the moose label up for this one. That being said, I had a Utah ticket in my pocket last night. I know a lot of other folks had Utah tickets in their pockets last night, and I wasn't sweating this game. You know, this game was over. OKC had nothing early on. The Jazz, 3-on-0 fast breaks. The effort wasn't there. And all of that flipped when Russell Westbrook turned it on in the second half. And, of course, that over, that's a tough one too, Pauly.
Oh.
I mean, when you got 107.99 and $1.25 to go in a relatively tight game, you're supposed to cash that ticket. No, Utah backers didn't cash their tickets. Over backers didn't cash their tickets. That's a couple of really tough beats from Wednesday night.
And a middle finger to the officials. They had to get involved, huh? Phantom, nice call on Gobert with his 4th and 5th foul. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Although the obvious thing was Donovan lucked into it. You can't play Melo, who stinks. So that's one thing, too. Game 6 tomorrow night. See if the Jazz can close the deal. How about the Wizards, our play of the day? Give me a break. Plus 7.5. Led by 5 with 8 minutes left. 5 of 26 from 3, and they kept shooting them. This is what happens when your bench stinks. They were tired. They were gassed. They kept shooting threes. They couldn't make them down the stretch. This is a 1-point game with 4 minutes left. And as I just said, they're up 5 with 8 minutes. I thought they were going to win the game. They couldn't even get the money.
No question, Paulian. You nailed it. You have a 1-point game with 4 minutes to go, and then all of a sudden, Toronto starts hitting everything. 12-0. Raptors run before a couple of garbage time points. But that was the game in that about a 3-minute stretch between the 4-minute mark and the 1-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Toronto, they got going offensively. Washington couldn't buy a bucket when it mattered most. Had a huge result, obviously, on the side in that ballgame. The team that led by 5 with 8 minutes to go, yep, they don't cover plus 7.5. That is a tough beat.
A couple of bad bets. Rockets, T-Wolves under 219 to 216.5. It goes over. Raptors, Wizards over 214 to 216.5. It stays under. And here it is again. The Dodgers as high as 420 in Las Vegas at station casinos. Kershaw's now down over 7 units. They get beat at home by the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, look, Clayton Kershaw came into the season as the most profitable pitcher to back in Major League Baseball over the last 4 years. When you have an ace at that level, it's really hard to maintain. And we've seen him maintain it far longer than he was supposed to be able to maintain it. Now, obviously, we've seen some bullpen issues for LA in early season play, but frankly, there's some problems with the Dodgers right now. I'm not convinced that LA is going to flip the switch. When you see the Dodgers at $4 favorites and getting steamed up, maybe there's money to be made betting against them. As you mentioned, Kershaw now the single least profitable starter in Major League Baseball to support so far this season.
Yep. Braves over 9 to 9.5. Finished 5-4. Royals plus 120 down to even. Lost 6-2. How about bad for the books? The Cubs under from 8 down to 7.5. Bauer pitched to Gem. Indians win 4-1. And the A's Rangers under 10.5 to 9.5. 4-2 final.
Sure. Both those bad results for the books. And Tampa Bay, let's not forget them. The Rays took a
Yep.
bunch of money last night. They were bet from plus 125 down to even money. They beat the slumping Orioles. That's Tampa's fourth straight game where they scored 8 or more, which has been the exception rather than the rule for the Rays offense so far this season. Orioles really slumping. Well, they have a chance to pull out of that today with a Bundy versus Archer matchup on the tap for Thursday night.
Which I like over 7.5, as every Archer start has gone over so far. 5-0 to the over. I like that over for what it's worth. Also, bet for the books here at the South Point in Las Vegas. $125,000 bet on the Pacers plus 6.5. This guy's an event bettor. He comes to town. He flies in from the East Coast. He watches the game and then gets right back on the plane and leaves. And he had 50,000 on the Penguins in Game 3 against the Flyers. 125,000. I'll tell you what. He's loving LeBron James. The last thing he wanted was overtime.
No doubt. You know, the last thing you wanted, it's plus 6.5, especially because that is very much in danger in OT. But look, we talk about what influences point spreads and how the markets move. When the South Point takes a $125,000 bet on Indiana, guess what? The South Point line is going to be off from the market because they have to try to balance their books. You will see these situations on a fairly consistent basis throughout the course of the NBA playoffs, MLB regular season, into the NFL. I mean, on and on down the line. You're going to see books that have specific needs and adjust their lines accordingly. If you're a savvy bettor, you'll find enough accounts out there or the ability to get down at some of the off-market numbers. Every half point matters. We've seen that come into play more than once already this NBA postseason.
It's draft day, baby. You got to love it. How about this at Bet Online? Baker Mayfield, now the favorite to go number 1 overall to the Browns at minus $2. Allen in free fall mode since with the tweets that came out. Where the hell are his agents? 15 years old, tweeting racial and gay slurs. You think they would scrub his Twitter account. Rosen free fall as well. So now people are buying the reports that Mayfield could go number 1. Remember when we did all those draft props on the show? Oh, my God, the stuff we gave out. How about how this stuff has moved in Las Vegas? And I know William Hill they doubled their amount of props this year on the draft. Who will be drafted first, Rosen or Barkley? Rosen opened $3. Barkley closed minus 340. Oh, my God. Who will go first, Nelson or Bradley Chubb? That went from 160 to 470. Who will be drafted first, Nick Chubb or Sony Michel? Michel opened plus 110. He closed minus 330. How many quarterbacks will go in the first 2 rounds? Over 5.5. Open 160, closed $9. At the Westgate, how many Notre Dame players will go in the first round? Over 1.5. Open 240, closed minus 1,600. Will Ridley go ahead of Sutton? First wide receiver, Ridley, 180 up to 280. And first round quarterbacks over 5, 110 up to minus 280, Teddy. How about that, Steve?
Well, the good news is that we were able to give you key information ahead of time as these lines were first starting to steam. That's why we did our NFL draft preview well ahead of the big market moves from what we've seen. But the bottom line is right now, you know, here we are, morning of the draft. It's closed in Vegas. You can still get down offshore. But if you're trying to get involved in any of these, the only moves you can make are betting against some of the steam, taking advantage of the big plus prices. You do not want to be involved in, hey, let's lay minus $8 with something that was minus 160 just a couple of weeks ago. That's a recipe for betting disaster. Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.